Thanks for checking out this video. So in this video, we're going to go all the way back to the beginning of the Bible in Genesis when they're describing the creation story. So in the creation story, there are 6 days of creation. Now, the godly pattern of creation is this blue pattern right here. The purple pattern within the godly pattern, that's the human pattern. So let's start with the godly pattern. We can see there are 6 circles in the interior of that external blue circle. These are the 6 days of creation. On the seventh day, God looks in and rests and enjoys the creation. Now, in addition to God's creation, he makes humans in his image. When you look at these two patterns, you can see how humans are made in the image of God, even though they're different. How are they different? Well, first of all, this is how they're similar. You see how the 6 circles align with each other, but the difference is in the human pattern, the circles are much smaller, and specifically the central circle. So the central circle for humans is very small, and the central circle for God is very large. This is because God sees everything, and this is the pattern that's organizing everything, and humans have a limited perspective. Okay, so let's shift gears now, and we're going to talk about who gets to exist within the creation. So in the creation story, it starts with Adam and Eve. And Adam and Eve are in the Garden of Eden, and there are 2 trees within the Garden of Eden. There is the tree of good and evil, and God forbids Adam and Eve to eat from this tree. And then there's the tree of life. So to see the tree of life, we're actually going to remove this. So the overlapping petals created by the blue circles creates what's called the tree of life. This is the tree of life because this is the tree that's organizing everything. The tree of good and evil, well, that's connected to human perception. So humans are fooled into thinking that they can think good or humans can think evil when the truth is thinking like a human is what leads to death. You see, the human pattern creates an eternal cycle of death, and the godly pattern creates an eternal cycle of life. So this idea that the tree of good and evil, that we can be good or bad humans, that's the deception. So what happens is Eve eats of the fruit, she shares it with Adam, and God kicks Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden. The Garden of Eden is this blue perimeter, and now they have to live with humans outside of the Garden of Eden. Now, let's get into the story of Cain and Abel because they have 2 sons, and Cain and Abel are very important because they represent these bottom shapes, okay? And God asks Cain and God asks Abel to each give an offering. And Cain offers up these 2 cycles, cycles 1 and 2, which are red and orange. So look at where the red and the orange shapes are, and they're on the bottom side of the pattern, on the evil side. God is unpleased with Cain's offering. However, God is pleased with Abel's offering. Why? So the cycles that exist within this shape are yellow and green. That relates to the good side of the tree or the upper side of the tree. This is why God favors Abel's offering. And what this does is it creates this jealous rage where Cain kills Abel. Now, this is just a story that explains how these fractal mathematics work. Spring, summer, fall, winter. So when we hit winter, there's this downward movement through the pattern. Then we get to spring, we're still going downward. And then all of a sudden we turn around and now we start to go upward again. So that has to do with Abel and Adam are on the upward side, and Eve and Cain are on the downward side. This is an analogy that describes the fractal mathematics that not only Abraham knows, but as we get a little deeper in here, you're going to see that Jesus knows all about these as well, just like I know how this works. That's how I'm doing this.